opens in the quiet, sun-drenched town of Red Rock, where the daily rhythm of life is slow but steady, setting the stage for a moment charged with tension and apprehension. Mary, a small and determined woman, approaches Caleb Thompson, the town's giant rancher, a man whose physical presence is imposing and whose reputation for fairness and strength precedes him like a shadow. Her son, Tommy, has accidentally damaged one of Caleb's carts, an act that, though unintentional, could easily provoke anger from someone less patient. As Mary walks toward the rancher, she clutches her shawl tightly, her knuckles white with nervousness, each step heavy with the fear of confrontation. Her mind races, imagining all the potential consequences for her son, from stern words to punishment, and she rehearses an apology over and over, the words almost catching in her throat. When she finally reaches Caleb, she speaks with a trembling voice, barely audible over the gentle rustle of the evening wind, and says, "I'm so sorry about my son." The weight of her words hangs in the air, met with a silence that seems almost tangible, amplifying her anxiety. Yet, instead of anger or harsh rebuke, Caleb looks down at her with a slow, understanding smile, a gesture so simple yet profoundly disarming that it immediately alters the tone of the encounter. That smile, calm and patient, communicates reassurance, signaling that he does not view the mistake with resentment, but rather with tolerance and quiet strength. For Mary, that single expression speaks volumes, easing the tight knot of fear in her chest and replacing it with a fragile sense of hope. The narrative in this opening part is rich with emotional texture. It conveys not only the physical contrast between the small, anxious mother and the towering, composed rancher, but also the psychological tension of anticipation, guilt, and the universal desire for forgiveness. Through her internal reflections and Caleb's silent yet powerful response, the story establishes themes of understanding, patience, and the understated power of kindness, setting the stage for the relational growth and trust that will unfold in the subsequent parts of the story. Even without a single word of scolding, Part 1 captures the essence of empathy and human connection, illustrating how a simple gesture, a smile, can transform fear into hope and begin the process of reconciliation. Deepens the emotional resonance of the encounter between Mary, her son Tommy, and the giant rancher Caleb Thompson by focusing on the profound, almost unspoken power of silence and presence. After Mary's timid apology and Caleb's reassuring smile, the scene lingers in a quiet moment that feels suspended outside the normal flow of time, emphasizing how much communication can occur without words. Mary still tense from the anticipation of anger watches Caleb, carefully noticing the relaxed way his massive frame leans against the fence post, his hands large and strong but entirely calm, signaling that he is not a threat but a steady guiding presence. The contrast between her anxiety and his composed demeanor amplifies the emotional tension, as she begins to feel the weight of expectation lift ever so slightly. In that silence, Mary perceives a gentleness that surprises her, an understanding that her son's mistake is not a reflection of her parenting but a momentary lapse that can be remedied with patience and guidance. The narrative emphasizes the psychological impact of Caleb's quiet confidence. His lack of immediate judgment allows Mary to breathe, subtly shifting the dynamic from fear to tentative trust. Tommy, peeking nervously from behind his mother, mirrors this shift. He senses the change in Caleb's mood through small cues, a slow nod, the soft eyes, the slight curve of a smile, and begins to understand that his mistake is a chance to learn, not a reason for shame. Part 2 also begins to establish the relational groundwork that will underpin the story. The mutual respect forming between Caleb and Mary, as well as the emerging bond between Caleb and Tommy. This moment highlights a central theme of the story, that true authority and strength are demonstrated not through anger or dominance, but through measured calm, empathy, and the ability to inspire confidence and growth in others. By focusing on subtle gestures, the tilt of a head, the quiet presence of a giant figure, the slow, reassuring smile, Part 2 conveys more than dialogue ever could, showing how trust begins to take root in the fertile ground of patience and understanding. This part reinforces the idea that sometimes the most powerful lessons and deepest connections are forged in silence, where a simple gesture or expression communicates far more than words ever might. It is in this shared quiet that the seeds of respect, learning, and emotional connection are sown, setting the stage for the gradual transformation of fear into trust and apprehension into hope, which will continue to unfold in the next chapters of their story. Shifts the focus to Tommy, Mary's young and anxious son, and explores his personal experience of fear, guilt, and the tentative beginnings of trust in Caleb, the giant rancher. After witnessing his mother's careful approach and Caleb's unexpected calm, Tommy hovers behind her, shrinking slightly under the weight of his own guilt and the imposing presence of a man whose reputation as a strong, no-nonsense rancher precedes him. His small frame and nervous movements contrast sharply with Caleb's broad shoulders and towering stature, highlighting the emotional and physical disparity between them. Tommy's mind races as he anticipates punishment for his mistake. He envisions harsh words, stern lectures, or even being sent away in shammed. The tension manifests in a quivering lip and downcast eyes. Summoning a faint voice, he mutters a quiet apology, barely audible, expecting dismissal or reproach. Yet Caleb's gentle, patient smile meets his words without judgment. The silence that follows, punctuated only by the soft rustle of the evening wind and the distant sounds of the town, feels almost tangible, as if time itself has slowed to allow Tommy to absorb the message of calm and understanding that Caleb conveys without speaking. The young boy, initially paralyzed by fear, begins to sense that mistakes do not define him. Rather, they are opportunities to learn and grow. In this moment, the narrative emphasizes the psychological shift in Tommy from dread and self-reproach to cautious hope and curiosity about the giant rancher who, through his quiet strength, communicates acceptance rather than anger. Mary watches closely, relief washing over her as she notices her son's shoulders begin to relax and his eyes lift slightly, reflecting a flicker of trust. Part 3 deepens the story's central theme of patience, empathy, and the transformational power of calm authority. Caleb's reaction demonstrates that true guidance and strength are not measured by size or loudness but by the ability to inspire understanding and confidence in others. Through Tommy's perspective, readers witness the subtle yet profound impact of Caleb's demeanor, establishing a foundation for a bond that will grow stronger in the coming parts. This section underscores the story's emotional core, that even the smallest gestures, not a patient smile, a listening presence, can convey reassurance, foster respect, and plant the seeds of a relationship built on trust, which is precisely what begins to emerge between the boy and the rancher in this quiet, pivotal encounter. Shifts the focus from fear and hesitation to the beginning of learning and guidance as Caleb the giant rancher takes on the role of mentor for Tommy in a way that is patient, steady, and deeply humane. Rather than chastising the boy for the damaged cart, Caleb speaks in a calm, measured tone, emphasizing the importance of responsibility and the lessons that mistakes can teach, creating an atmosphere where Tommy feels safe to absorb the knowledge instead of shrinking in shame. His deep voice carries authority without intimidation, a combination of strength and kindness that reassures both Tommy and Mary that he is fair and understanding. The narrative highlights how Caleb's approach transforms a moment that could have been frightening into a formative learning experience, as he demonstrates, step by step, how to repair the cart and handle the tools carefully, explaining each action with patience. Mary watches her son with a mixture of relief and admiration, noticing the subtle but profound changes in his posture, the way his shoulders straighten slightly and his hesitant movements gain confidence, reflecting a budding understanding of responsibility. This part of the story reinforces the central theme that guidance and teaching are more effective when rooted in empathy rather than fear. Caleb's giant presence, which could have been intimidating, instead becomes a source of security and inspiration. The dynamic between mother, son, and rancher deepens as Mary begins to see Caleb not only as a figure of authority, but as someone capable of fostering growth and instilling values through quiet, deliberate action. Tommy, initially anxious and ashamed, experiences the empowering realization that mistakes are not permanent failures but opportunities for learning, and Caleb's patience allows him to take ownership of his actions without fear of reprimand. The narrative emphasizes the transformative effect of calm, supportive leadership by demonstrating responsibility and encouraging engagement rather than punishing missteps. Caleb nurtures confidence, self-respect, and mutual trust. Part 4 also subtly builds the foundation for relational bonds that extend beyond mere guidance. It shows how respect, understanding, and compassion can bridge the gap between generations and temper the natural fears of youth with the reassurance of a mentor's steady presence. In this quiet yet pivotal stage, the story illustrates that genuine growth arises from encouragement, patience, and example setting the stage for deeper connections, lasting lessons, and the slow evolution of a meaningful relationship that will continue to develop in the subsequent parts of the tale. Expands on the growing bond and mutual respect developing between Caleb, Mary, and Tommy, showing how their relationship moves beyond the initial tension and awkwardness into genuine connection through shared experiences and acts of guidance. Over the following days, Caleb continues to mentor Tommy in a hands-on practical way, patiently teaching him not only how to repair the cart, but also how to approach chores and tasks around the ranch with care, skill, and thoughtfulness. Each lesson is infused with calm authority and quiet encouragement, reinforcing the principle that mistakes are a natural part of learning and personal growth. Mary observes these interactions with a mix of gratitude and admiration, realizing that Caleb's towering presence, which once intimidated her, is now a source of reassurance and stability for both her and her son. Through these experiences, Tommy begins to gain confidence in himself and his abilities, noticing that Caleb's patience allows him to take initiative, ask questions, and even make small decisions without fear of reprimand. The narrative emphasizes the subtle ways in which trust and respect are cultivated. Through repeated acts of guidance, encouragement, and consistency, Caleb's gentle authority demonstrates that true strength is measured not by dominance but by the ability to nurture growth in others. Mary, in particular, begins to see a new side of Caleb: the human warmth behind the imposing figure, the empathy that guides his actions, and the quiet dignity with which he treats those around him. These moments of interaction deepen the emotional texture of the story, illustrating that meaningful bonds are forged through shared effort, understanding, and patience, rather than through force or intimidation. Additionally, the story highlights the emotional transformation of Tommy, whose initial fear and guilt gradually give way to curiosity, pride, and admiration, reflecting the lasting impact of a mentor who leads with patience and integrity. Through this sustained, quiet process, the story conveys a powerful message about the importance of modeling responsibility, compassion, and respect in everyday interactions, showing how small gestures and consistent guidance can shape character and build trust. By the end of Part 5, the trio's dynamic has shifted significantly. Fear and hesitation have been replaced with mutual respect, budding affection, and a sense of shared purpose, setting the stage for deeper emotional connections, further growth, and the subtle development of what could become a surrogate family bond, which will continue to unfold in the next chapters of the story, focuses on the quiet, yet profound, development of emotional bonds between Mary, Tommy, and Caleb, highlighting how trust and affection begin to emerge through shared experiences and unspoken understanding. As days pass, Mary spends more time at the ranch helping her son with tasks under Caleb's watchful but gentle guidance, and gradually she begins to notice the nuances of his character that had previously been hidden behind his imposing size and reputation. Caleb's interactions with Tommy are patient and encouraging, yet they are never condescending. He treats the boy as capable, even when mistakes are made, fostering a sense of pride and self-confidence. Through these everyday moments, mending fences, fixing the cart, tending to animals, or simply walking together across the sunlit fields, a natural rhythm of companionship and respect develops. Mary, observing the gentle way Caleb guides her son, starts to feel her own fears and reservations dissolve, replaced by admiration for the man's steady integrity and quiet strength. There is a delicate intimacy in the shared silences that punctuate their work, moments where words are unnecessary, and understanding passes effortlessly between them. Caleb's calm demeanor and consistent kindness communicate reassurance, creating a safe environment in which both Mary and Tommy feel valued and respected. The narrative emphasizes that these bonds are not forced or sudden, but evolve organically, nurtured through patience, reliability, and mutual care. Tommy's confidence grows visibly. He begins to take initiative, proud of his contributions, and delighted when Caleb acknowledges his efforts with a small nod or approving smile. Mary, in turn, experiences a sense of relief and hope, recognizing that her son is not only learning practical skills but also absorbing lessons in character, patience, and resilience. Part 6 underscores the story's central theme that true connection is built on empathy, understanding, and shared effort rather than on superficial interactions or authority alone. By highlighting these subtle moments, shared glances, smiles, quiet laughter, and mutual respect, the story conveys how trust and affection can develop naturally over time, creating the foundation for deeper familial or mentor-like relationships. By the end of this part, the trio has formed a cohesive unit of mutual reliance and care, where each person's presence is a source of comfort and reassurance to the others, setting the stage for gestures of gratitude, emotional revelation, and the further strengthening of bonds in the next stage of the story centers on a pivotal moment of gratitude, recognition, and emotional warmth, as the growing bond between Caleb, Mary, and Tommy begins to move beyond mentorship and guidance into a deeper, more personal connection. By now, Tommy has gained confidence, pride in his abilities, and a sense of security under Caleb's patient supervision, and Mary has witnessed firsthand the giant rancher's integrity, kindness, and unwavering support. In this part, the narrative focuses on a small but highly symbolic gesture. Tommy, eager to show appreciation for Caleb's patience and guidance, presents him with a hand-carved toy wagon, a heartfelt token of gratitude crafted with care, effort, and genuine affection. The act is both simple and profoundly meaningful, demonstrating the boy's emotional growth, his understanding of responsibility, and the bond that has formed between mentor and pupil. Caleb's reaction, a broad and genuine smile, conveys warmth, pride, and quiet approval, and when he lifts Tommy into a gentle, protective hug, the physical gesture mirrors the emotional closeness that has been building over the past days and weeks. Mary watches this exchange, her heart swelling with relief, admiration, and gratitude, realizing that the apology she once offered for her son now seems almost insignificant in comparison to the genuine connection, respect, and trust that have blossomed. The narrative emphasizes the emotional resonance of nonverbal communication. How a simple smile, a hug, or a thoughtful gift can communicate deep appreciation and foster enduring bonds. This part also reinforces one of the story's key themes, that relationships rooted in patience, guidance, and empathy can transform fear into admiration, hesitation into confidence, and strangers into something akin to family. The gestures in Part 7 are small in scale but monumental in meaning, marking a turning point in the story, where gratitude and emotional openness replace apprehension and uncertainty, and where the characters acknowledge their mutual reliance and affection without needing elaborate words. By highlighting this intimate, heartfelt moment, the story conveys the lasting impact of kindness, understanding, and shared experiences, showing how meaningful connections are built gradually through patience, encouragement, and genuine care. By the end of Part 7, the foundation for a strong, enduring bond, almost familial in nature, is firmly established, paving the way for the final part to explore how these relationships fully solidify, culminating in mutual trust, respect, and emotional harmony. Brings the story to a heartfelt and emotionally satisfying conclusion, highlighting the deep bonds of trust, respect, and quiet affection that have developed between Mary, Tommy, and Caleb. After days of shared experiences, guidance, and small gestures of care, the trio stands together as the sun sets over the rolling hills of Red Rock, the warm golden light casting long shadows across the ranch. Words are unnecessary in this moment, for the silence itself speaks volumes of understanding, acceptance, and a newfound sense of family that transcends formal titles or obligations. Mary feels a profound relief and gratitude as she watches her son, who now stands taller, proud of the lessons he has learned and confident in the knowledge that mistakes are opportunities rather than failures. Tommy's eyes meet Caleb's, and in that simple gaze lies the unspoken acknowledgement of respect, admiration, and trust that has grown over the course of their shared days. Caleb, the imposing giant whose reputation once inspired fear, now radiates calm warmth and protective strength, his quiet smile conveying approval, reassurance, and a steady presence that comforts both mother and son. The narrative emphasizes the transformative power of patience, empathy, and consistent guidance, showing that true relationships are built not on authority or dominance, but on mutual respect, understanding, and the ability to foster growth in others. The story's core theme, that human connections can flourish through small acts of kindness, attentiveness, and emotional openness, is fully realized here. As the trio stands united, their bonds strengthened by shared experiences, quiet lessons, and genuine care. The symbolism of the setting, the sun dipping below the horizon, bathing them in soft light, mirrors the emotional journey they have undergone. From fear and apprehension to trust, respect, and heartfelt connection. Mary feels a sense of closure and peace, recognizing that her initial apology, though important, was only the catalyst for a deeper transformation in her family's dynamics, catalyzed by Caleb's quiet strength and empathy. By the end of Part 8, the story conveys a profound message, that forgiveness, understanding, and patience have the power to heal, to teach, and to forge bonds that endure. The silence that had once been heavy with fear now hums with warmth and belonging, encapsulating the journey of 3 lives intertwined not by obligation, but by mutual respect, care, and the simple yet extraordinary power of a smile, a gesture, and shared trust. It is a conclusion that leaves the reader with a sense of hope, emotional satisfaction, and a timeless reminder that sometimes the most powerful connections are those formed in quiet, meaningful moments rather than through grand declarations.